Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. Pakistan's Foreign Minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, is in Washington and he's on a week-long tour to the United States of America. He had his engagements at the United Nations headquarters earlier, and now he is in Washington and is likely to be holding meetings with the high-ranking U.S. officials. And during his interviews to the different U.S. media outlets, he explained how Islamabad was working to improve its relations with the U.S. And he also said, and let me quote, that whenever the U.S. and Pakistan have worked together, we have achieved great things, unquote. At the same time, the U.S. has also extended help and support to Pakistan on two fronts. So when it comes to mediation between Pakistan and India in order to resolve the Kashmir dispute and the bilateral relation between Pakistan and India, and also Pakistan's fight against terrorism, especially the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. And the State Department spokesperson, Mr. Ned Price, said that it offers unconditional support to Pakistan in its battle against the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. At the same time, the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has also called on the Afghan government and the Afghan Taliban that the Afghan soil shouldn't be used against any other country, and it also poses a threat when it comes to the perspective of terrorism, especially against Pakistan. He also said that the UN is actively engaged in the discussions with the de facto authorities in relation to this particular issue. At the same time, in another major development, Khaja Mohammad Asif, Defense Minister, while addressing the National Assembly, said that operation against the terrorists at the Bannu CTD Center is ongoing successfully, and the details would be shared by the Inter-Services Public Relations regarding this operation as well. Now, there has been a rise in terrorist activities in Pakistan in recent months, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and Balochistan province. And the Pakistani authorities, including the armed forces and the law enforcement, remain alert and vigilant in order to thwart this particular challenge that has risen once again. We'll be talking about this particular offer of help and support by the US to Pakistan on two different fronts, and also what a sort of role the international community and the UN can play in order to impress upon the Afghan Taliban to fulfill their promise of not letting the Afghan soil to be used against Pakistan. And what could be expected after this offer of mediation and help and support when it comes to the resolution of the Kashmir dispute, and what could be expected as an attitude and behavior from the Indian side? And to delve deeper into all these aspects, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Mr. Umer Khan Ali Sherzai. He is former ambassador and has also served as Consular General in Afghanistan previously. Mr. Sherzai, thank you very much for your time, for being on Views on News. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And we are also honored to be joined in the studio by Dr. Tughral Yamin. He's Senior Analyst. Dr. Yamin, thank you very much for your time, also for being on Views on News. At the same time, we are being joined on the phone line from Washington, D.C. by Mr. Anwar Iqbal. He's Senior Journalist. Mr. Anwar Iqbal, thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate your time. Also, let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Anwar Iqbal. Now, this offer of support and help, and especially the unconditional support to Pakistan from the US when it comes to countering the threat of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, speaks volumes that the bilateral relations between Pakistan and the US have improved recently, and both the countries are engaging on different fronts. Your take, sir?
Yes, you're right. I mean, relations have improved. Pakistan is out of that period or that phase when it seemed that Pakistan relations with America were sort of
Unfortunately, we have lost the connection with Mr. Anwar Iqbal. Let me bring in Mr. Sherzai. Mr. Sherzai, there are two different supports which have been mentioned by the State Department spokesperson, Mr. Ned Price, when it comes to the mediation regarding the resolution of the Kashmir dispute between Pakistan and India. We'll be talking about that, of course, but let's talk about the unconditional support in order to deal with the threat of the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan. All-out support, unconditional support offered by the US. And now, when it comes to this particular support, how heartening it is for the Pakistani authorities, because Pakistan has paid a huge price in countering terrorism over the years, being the front line ally in the war on terror.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First of all, I would like to say that this visit of the foreign minister was a great success, and really the ice is getting melted, and the relations are improving steadily. And this particular offer by the United States, of course, is a great offer. But I would like to say that before asking for any help from the US, I think it is more important for us to talk to the Taliban and bring them to a table talk, because ultimately they are the people to really sort out this matter. America, of course, we are grateful for their unconditional support that they have offered. Really, Bilawal Bhutto did a wonderful job, and I personally like him a lot. Mashallah, he is a young person and doing very well as a foreign minister, as I have seen him till today. The right out support, we should of course keep on discussing with them, not get any support at the moment. My view is that first we should talk to the Taliban at a serious note, and unfortunately, we have not been able to convince the Taliban of our sincerity as yet. Despite the fact that Pakistan did a lot for the Taliban, and we have been supporting them, and we should keep on supporting them. But I have always been saying that we should never rule out the role of India in spoiling relations between the Taliban and the Pakistan government.
So you mean to say India had been playing the role of the peace spoiler when it comes to peace and stability in Afghanistan? Mr. Sherzai, your point is well taken. I'll come back to this very important point that you've just highlighted. We are once again being joined by Mr. Anwar Iqbal, senior journalist, joining us on the phone line from Washington, DC. Mr. Iqbal, what do you think? It speaks volumes of the foreign policy success, especially under the leadership of Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, that there is a thaw in the relationship between the US and Pakistan, and the relationship between both the countries is improving. And this particular offer of help and support, especially in countering the threat of TTP in Pakistan, and also the mediation as far as the resolution of the Kashmir dispute is concerned, speaks volumes that this bilateral relationship is headed towards the right direction.
Sorry, first of all, let me apologize because my line got disconnected.
It's okay.
Yes,
okay.
you're
Please
right.
go ahead.
The change of government in Pakistan has helped in improving relations. But more important, I would say, is there are certain international developments. There has been a realization in Washington that while they need India for countering China's influence, Pakistan is also a very important country. They need Pakistan. First of all, because it is an important country. It's a country with almost 240 million people now. It's a nuclear armed country. It is a large middle class. It is a large diaspora and everything. So it is not one of those countries that can simply be ignored. And more than that, also realized that even to keep India under control, they need a strong presence of Pakistan. And Pakistan could also be, as in it has been in the past, a conduit to China. By having a strong presence in Pakistan, they can influence developments in Afghanistan. And for all those reasons, the United States now, of course, that doesn't mean that it is reconsidering its relationship with India. As Ned Price, the spokesperson for the US State Department, stated that yes, India remains a global strategic partner, but Pakistan is also an important security partner in that region. So they would like to maintain good relations with both. As far as the Kashmir issue is concerned, when asked directly that will they help resolve the Kashmir dispute, they said, well, that is one issue that needs to be discussed between India and Pakistan. But on other issues, that they said that they want good relations between India and Pakistan, and they would like to assist in improving these relations. And that too is a big gain for Pakistan, because India refuses to accept any international mediation in its relations with Pakistan. And the US endorses Pakistan's position that the differences are so huge that an international mediation is needed. So I think overall, this is whatever the State Department said has been very favorable to Pakistan on the issue of terrorism. Of course, they were very clear that it is a shared goal of both the United States and Pakistan to clear the terrorists from that region, and that the United States will do whatever it can to help Pakistan combat terrorism.
Right, Mr. Iqbal, when there are economic difficulties Pakistan is facing right now, especially in the wake of the devastating climate-induced floods recently we saw, now this unconditional support, when it comes to the front of dealing with the threat over banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, now what could be expected of this particular support? In what forms do we expect this support would be coming towards Pakistan when it comes to dealing with this particular threat of terrorism?
Well, you see, we need to change our perspective now. In the past, when we spoke of U.S. support or a strong relationship with the United States, it almost always meant getting more economic support, getting more military hardware. But now I think the entire world is changing. There has been a change in attitudes everywhere. I think Pakistan too has changed. I mean, now when Pakistani officials come, ministers come, even military officials come, they also spoke of improving the Pakistani economy. They talk about trade. They talk about industry. I think what Pakistan needs and can get from the United States is help in stabilizing its economy, and that's more important than any other form of support.
Right. When it comes to a U.S. role and the responsibility in order to impress upon the Afghan Taliban, because the Doha peace deal was struck between the Afghan Taliban and the U.S. Now, according to that deal, it is the responsibility of the interim Afghan government, which is, of course, led by the Afghan Taliban over there in Afghanistan. So how the U.S. can make the Afghan Taliban to fulfill that promise that they made in the Doha peace deal?
I think the United States does not have that kind of influence over the Taliban. The type of influence that they did have over the previous Afghan government. I think the United States cannot actually compare or force the Taliban government in Kabul to do anything. They can use their influence to soften the attitude. They still have a large lever that is of economic support. That the Afghan economy is almost close to bankruptcy, that they need huge international support, that they need the United States to return the funds that it has seized. So it can use those levers to not, I don't want to say compel or force, but to let them understand that they need to do certain things. And one of the most important things is not to let the Afghan soil be used for operations against any other country. And this is something that not just the United States, but the UN Secretary General also said yesterday, said that the Taliban need to make sure that their territory is not used against any other country. But the question is, I don't know how much control does the Taliban government in Afghanistan have over the splinter groups. Can the Afghan government actually ensure that kind of, can give that kind of assurance? Is the Taliban government in a position to force militant groups or to stop their activities or to evict them from Afghanistan? So there are a lot of questions. The situation in Afghanistan is very confusing, and we should not. I don't think it's going to actually improve overnight. If the United States and Pakistan work together, then obviously the situation will improve, but it will not improve overnight.
Right. Mr. Iqbal, one last question. When it comes to U.S. help and support, when it comes to the mediation in resolving the Kashmir dispute between Pakistan and India, but at the same time, if we read this particular statement by Mr. Ned Price, he says this particular issue has to be adjudicated between Pakistan and India, but we can offer mediation if both the sides want it. Pakistan has always been desirous of resolving the outstanding issues with India through dialogue. It was India that has always been shying away from negotiation. Pakistan wants the negotiations to start with the Kashmir dispute. It happens to the most contentious point between Pakistan and India. And now when there is a mediation effort by the US, and at the same time they say that it has to be adjudicated between Pakistan and India, don't you think there happens to be a responsibility of the US to play its role, being the permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, so that the relevant United Nations Security Council resolutions are implemented in letter and spirit?
Yes, you're right. It does have that responsibility. But can the United States do that? Do you think that the United States can actually force India to resolve the Kashmir issue? Can the United States force India to give up its claim over Kashmir? I think no country can do that. Right now, the Indian economy is going strong. India feels that it has become a key player in international politics. This year it is leading the G22 countries. It is part of the Asia-Pacific Alliance against China. The Americans need India for containing China's influence in that region and elsewhere. So I think the Indians also know, and the Americans realize too that they can only use a certain amount of pressure on India, and that's it. They cannot really do much again to actually force India to do anything on Kashmir or any other issue.
Right. Mr. Anwar Iqbal, senior journalist, joining us on the phone line from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for being on Views on News. Really appreciate your time. Dr. Yamin, when we talk about this unconditional support that offered by the U.S. State Department when it comes to dealing with the threat of TTP, as I already asked Mr. Iqbal also, that Pakistan is faced with economic challenges and there has been an uptick in violent terrorist activities in Pakistan in the recent months. So, of course, to deal with that threat and having the economic difficulties at the same time, more resources are required to be pooled in. Do you think we can expect any sort of economic support from the US in order to deal with that threat? And what other forms do you expect that unconditional support could be?
Tehami Saab, you tell me what kind of support you need. The United States is not going to tell you that. I think to stabilize our country, to stabilize whatever is happening in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we know that Bannu, which is a settled district, is right now in turmoil. Bannu cantonment has been sealed because there is an ongoing operation in which the members of the CTD were made hostages. So what kind of support do you need from the Americans? I think you need a lot of technology from them, and this is the moment that you can get from them. A lot of technology, battlefield technology, in which you can find out where the militants are hiding. You need weapons to sort them out, eliminate them. Your first duty is to make sure that your country is stable. Only if your country is stable is anybody going to invest in your country. Nobody is going to invest in a country which is economically on the verge of, I would not say default, but bad shape, and also your law and order situation is not good. So you should if you are a policymaker sitting in GHQ Rawalpindi or
No,
the joint,
no,
joint
when
let me complete my sentence. You need a lot of support from the Americans, provided you have your wish list ready with you. And as far as talking with the Taliban is concerned, they will not talk to you. These people have to be taught a good lesson. What else do they want from us?
You mean to say the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan?
Whoever is messing with your country, whether it's Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan or Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan, if you cannot speak to anybody from a position of weakness. So if something is happening in Banu cantonment, that means you are weak. So you have got to show them that you are not weak. Nobody listens to you if you are weak.
No,
so
Defense Minister Khaja Mohammad Asif has criticized the provincial government for its failure in not coping up with that.
Please let me complete
Please
my
go
sentence. You are interrupting me. So you have to demand things which can help you eliminate these people, because they are creating chaos in your country. They are firing, bombarding Chaman. This is something unprecedented. You help them out massively. In Nast, we called 2 batches of Afghan professors whom we taught now. What else do you expect? How can we show our sincerity to them? Nobody is going to talk to you if you do not talk from the position of strength. And if for that, if somebody is offering you unconditional support, ask for the best weapons, ask for night vision devices, ask for intelligence gathering devices, ask for anything under the sky, because they are saying that it's unconditional. That's what you said several times, unconditional. So
that is what
does that
Mr. Ned Price has said. Yes.
Net price, you quoted net price,
Yeah,
I know.
that's
And also the Commander CENTCOM was also over here. He also said they're going to help us in counter-terrorism. That is the area where your 2 interests are converging. They're not talking about injecting any economic aid into your country, and it will only happen once you stabilize your own country. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Well, your point is well taken. Mr. Sherzai, what sort of unconditional support Pakistan could expect from the US after this particular offer?
Well, frankly speaking, my own opinion is that let it be decided by the security authorities that what kind of support we really need at this point of time. At the same time, I would like to say that we should not try to go into war with Taliban. We should use diplomacy because it is the first line of defense, which we have not, frankly speaking, used appropriately. The problem is that to talk to Taliban, you need specific kind of people and specific kind of mentality. They don't believe in the formal kind of diplomacies that we do in other countries. And the tragedy is that today in Afghanistan, our ambassador cannot speak a word of Pashto, cannot speak a word of Persian, and I think there are hardly any officer who can converse with the Taliban.
About the
you know how when your representation is so weak, how you can engage them?
It was Pakistani authorities which facilitated the Afghan peace and reconciliation process. The Doha peace deal was struck between the US and the Afghan Taliban. Their office was opened in Doha, Qatar. So that speaks volumes that they can, these issues could be resolved through the conventional diplomacy as well. But when it comes to dealing with
with all due respect, I think, you know, when they deal internationally, of course they are trained people now. They are not those Taliban of 20, 30 years back. They can deal with the international diplomatic norms very well, but the problems between Pakistan and Afghanistan are such that you need the people who understand their mentality, who understand their culture, and who can really talk to them boldly.
But Pakistan gave peace a chance. Pakistan gave peace a chance. It was the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan that called off the ceasefire. So they broke that agreement between Pakistan and themselves. So I think diplomacy was given a chance.
I think you are mixing the two things. One are the Tehrik-e-Taliban, Afghanistan, and the other is the
So
TTP,
which one do you
Pakistan.
think should be talked to
You
and
know,
which one
now
shouldn't
the
be talked
present
to?
trouble is because of the TTP elements who are using the Afghan soil, not the Tehrik-e-Taliban themselves. So we should not mix the two. The Tehrik-e-Taliban is not a part of the Taliban government, but they are using their soil. So our main focus should be how to engage the Taliban, to influence them that they should not allow the TTP people to use their territory against Pakistan.
So how could that be done? I mean,
Well, that is what I'm saying, but you
Exactly.
again you say that they have been to Doha and all. You know, the problems between Pakistan and the Afghanistan are altogether different.
but they made a promise in the Doha peace deal as well. I mean,
that they would not
agreed to that.
yes, they would
agreement.
not let their soil be used for any terrorist activities. Well, they certainly did, but at the same
So it's
time,
the time to fulfill that promise.
They have their own lot of reservations. Also, the Taliban government has also lots of reservations. That the way that they expect Pakistan to do for them, they feel that the Pakistan is not doing enough. So this is what I'm saying, that you know, the kind of a tribal jirga which was sent earlier also should be brought to discuss all these issues with the Taliban people in an informal manner, and get proper promises from them that their territory should not be used against.
Right, and when it comes to the threat of TTP that is trying to operate in Pakistan using the Afghan soil, and there has been an uptick in violence in the recent months, how to deal with them? Do you suggest negotiating with them also?
Well, frankly speaking, I was very much against the previous government's negotiations with the TTP. That was frankly speaking, a very, very wrong step that the previous government took. We should not have talked to them at all, because they have killed thousands of our people, thousands of our soldiers, and they should have been dealt with in a different manner. But we offered them flowers and bouquets that we are ready to talk to you. That was a mistake which gave the TTP people a very wrong impression, feeling that Pakistan is weak and now we can do whatever we want. And it is the result of those negotiations that we are facing now, these attacks from the TTP.
But Dr. Yamin, this very particular concern has been raised by Nectar also, that this negotiation process with the TTP emboldened them, and that's why we have seen the recent surge.
And he's absolutely right. You shouldn't have talked to them. Who talks to terrorists? People who kill? APS 2014, these were the people who killed our children. And they have been on the rampage in our country. And we have had several negotiations with them right from the very beginning. We have been talking to, I'm even forgetting the names of people with whom we talked, and we sent jirgas to them. You see, people in former tribal areas in Afghanistan, they only understand the position of strength. Anywhere, if you talk from position of weakness, if you appease anybody, he or she is not going to listen to you. He or she may think that you are weak. Even now, the Nectar report which you are mentioning, they said they were testing the waters when they came into Malakand and Swat.
Yes.
And only when the government showed resolve did they evacuate, or they subsided or whatever. I do not know what is the current situation over there. So even now we have to show extreme resoluteness. Talking to them, sweet talking to them, offering them lollipops, I do not agree to it. You have to be very firm, and you have to use force with them. These people are destroying your country, And nobody is going to invest in your country if you are a weak country, if there's no law and stability, no normality, no stability, peace and security in your country. And yes, Afghans are allowing this soil to be used. They're shelling your country. They're killing civilians on your side. So these two people are doing everything together. He's also right when he says our diplomacy is weak, that our embassy is staffed by non-Pashtuns. That's also very bad. You should have people who can speak their language, talk to them in their language, a language of strength, not a language of weakness. You have to talk to them resolutely, but obviously he's right. There should be Pashtuns over there who should be handling the diplomacy, very strong diplomacy. What happened in the Second World War? What did Neville Chamberlain did? He went to Hitler, he negotiated with him, came back and said, peace in our lifetimes. And what happened with that was that Hitler was emboldened. He attacked Poland, and he attacked Czechoslovakia, he attacked France, until Churchill, whatever person he was, a firm leader came in, and then the tide started turning. So you need firmness, you need resoluteness. You have to tell them that we are not going to soft pedal anything. We mean business, and we want our country to be safe and secure. Safety and security, your safety and security, my safety and security, the safety and security of our children, our grandchildren is of paramount importance. And if you can ensure that, 16th December, APS, whatever happened in 2014, it should not be repeated.
Right, Dr. Yamin, the world knows the Doha peace deal was struck between the US and the Afghan Taliban. So there was an agreement, and it should be abided by. So it is between two parties. One is the Afghan Taliban, and the other is the US, who is now offering help to Pakistan to deal with the threat that is emanating from the Afghan soil. The TTP is using the Afghan soil to carry out those terrorist activities against Pakistan. Now, how the US can make the Afghan Taliban to at least abide by one promise out of that whole agreement, that this soil shouldn't be let to be the safe havens of the groups such as TTP and not be used against Pakistan, which facilitated the Afghan peace and reconciliation process.
Tehami Saab, the Doha peace deal is dead. The Americans did not withdraw in time, and they left in a great deal of hurry. So if they could not get their things sorted out with the Afghan Taliban, how can they ensure that their territory is not used for against Pakistan? How can it not be a sanctuary for terrorists? This deal is dead. In realpolitik, it is only strength.
May I?
Please go ahead.
The problem with Taliban is that they have made this complaint very often, that they are not equipped properly to deal with the TTP or the Daesh people. The United States made this agreement, but at the same time they did not equip the Taliban to deal with this kind of situation. Now, when you don't have the capacity to deal with such a situation, certainly your soil is being used.
That depicts that if you don't have the capacity to deal with that threat, you
Because
don't have the
they are
capability
not-
to govern such a huge
I don't agree with it. They left the Afghan National Army.
They don't have the arms and ammunitions to fight with the Daesh.
Perhaps
and
it's also with another promise that was made in the Doha peace deal to go for an inclusive government, to bring all the stakeholders from all parts of the country and to form an inclusive
that
government.
is their problem.
Perhaps that could have reduced the resentment.
We should not, frankly speaking, indulge into this useless kind of Western discussions. How inclusive we are here, every country has its own dynamics. So we should not bother ourselves about what kind of government, whether it is all inclusive or non-inclusive. That should not be our concern. Our concern should be basically how to protect our country against this onslaught of the TTP people. And for that it is important that Pakistan should also tell the United States to equip the Taliban, to arm the Taliban so that they can fight against Daesh and all these such elements who are using the Afghan soil.
Dr. Yamin, we saw that over the last 2 decades, the international coalition forces couldn't equip or train the Afghan national security forces. I mean, after 2 decades of training, a lot of...
No. My dear Tehami Sahab, they were very well equipped. There were over 300,000 people. They were equipped with the latest tanks. They had Humvees. They have attack helicopters. The only thing is they did not.
The Afghan Taliban took over so easily.
They did not have the will to fight. They had no appetite for war because their own leader Ashraf Ghani ran away with bags full of dollars to the UAE. So they did not fight. So saying that they were not equipped, ANA was created. You see, it was created precisely for this reason, that this country should become stable. But if you don't have good leadership, then these people will, why should they spill their own blood? So they vanished, leaving behind so much equipment that now the Taliban is using. And to say that the US is now going to equip Taliban, they will not. Why should they? They gave them a bloody nose. They made them run away. Why should they now give them arms and ammunition to fight the Daesh and other? So if they are offering you unconditional support, grab them with both hands, seize this opportunity, get whatever you can get, and make sure that your country remains stable, that these people do not create chaos and anarchy in your country. These people should know that we mean business and the state is strong, despite whatever the economy looks
Dr.
like.
Yamin, do you think, is there any sort of a role the UN can play? Because there has been a statement by UN chief also that we are actively engaged in our discussions with the Taliban de facto authorities in relation to this. When it comes to the terrorist organizations that are operating from Afghanistan represent a threat to Pakistan in particular. He has mentioned this name as well, and the Afghan Taliban must deliver in relation to the inclusion. When we talk about this particular engagement by the US with the de facto Afghan authorities, are there any prospects?
You're talking about US or the UN?
The UN.
The UN is there. The UNAMA is still there. The UNDP is still there. They are doing business over there, whatever humanitarian aid that they can provide. But at the same time, they are not providing them the seat in the United Nations. You see, they are still withholding due recognition to the Taliban. So that's
again conditioned to fulfilling the promises
in
the Doha Peace deal.
Inclusive government on all the gender equality.
The treatment of women
and these are logical demands. These are I do not agree that this is their culture. What the hell do they mean? This is for God's sake, this is 21st century. You cannot stop a girl child from going to school. You cannot start lashing a woman if she's out with a relative of her. How can you do that? It's immoral. It's unethical. You cannot do that.
Do we any fruitful outcomes from this engagement by the United Nations with the Afghan Taliban?
They have very little leverage. They are providing them aid, humanitarian aid. They are trying to do whatever they can do within the flexibility or room for maneuver that they have. Apart from that, then as I said, they're not giving them representation in the UN. So it's quid pro quo. You agree to something, they will agree to something.
What I mean to understand from this is that if you don't recognize us, we'll let the other terrorist groups to take safe havens on our territory and let them operate.
No, they are worried. The UN is worried about Daesh. The US is worried about Daesh. But
I'm talking about the Afghan Taliban perspective. If you don't recognize them, they would
the Taliban also worried about Daesh. Daesh poses a problem to them. They do not want Daesh to take over Afghanistan. Daesh is not Afghan. They are not non-Afghans, and they are not very large in numbers. So why should they allow Taliban let their hard-won victory fall into the laps of people who are not ethnically Pashtuns or Tajiks or Uzbeks or whatever? It is a very confusing type of situation there in Afghanistan.
Mr. Sherzai, any role do you expect the UN from this particular engagement, the United Nations Secretary General has alluded to, can be expected?
Well, frankly speaking, as rightly said by my colleague, I think the first step that the United States or the UN should take to extend proper recognition to the Afghan government so that they become answerable to the international community. Up till now, they don't have any presence in the UN, and They are not being recognized, so you are also calling them a de facto government, and well, then their responsibility gets minimized vis-a-vis the people who are properly recognized, who have properly recognized governments. So I think the first thing, and one of the reasons why Taliban are little unhappy with Pakistan and not supporting us the way that they should do, is this recognition, about which I have been saying very frequently that Pakistan should be the first country to recognize the Afghan government, so that the other governments follow suit and it turns to be a legitimate Afghan government. And after then you can ask them for all these subsequent issues like gender issues or female education or all inclusive governments and things like that. But up till now you have not recognized them. So you have no legal or moral ground to ask them for any kind of help. They have taken the government not because of the help and assistance of Pakistan. They have been fighting, they were killed, and they have been doing it all themselves. Now, and they have defeated the United States and all those superpowers. So you should not underestimate their resilience.
They don't fulfill their promises as per the Doha peace deal, on the condition of which they were supposed to be recognized as the legitimate or de jure government over there. Once they don't fulfill their promise, there doesn't come the recognition for them. So if they are recognized in that very way, and after that they continue to violate those terms and conditions of that agreement also, so what that sort of a scenario
well,
would be?
Then the international community can ask Afghans in the United Nations. Up till now they don't have any presence, so they are scot free.
Mr. Sherzai, we are short of time, so we'll have to look into another aspect of this particular offer when it comes to mediation by the US between Pakistan and India in the resolution of Kashmir dispute. And as you already mentioned in your discussion, that India has been playing the role of peace spoiler when it comes to peace and stability in Afghanistan. When it comes to this particular offer, Pakistan has always desired dialogue and friendly relations with the neighboring countries, but it was India which has been shying away from the negotiations. Is there any expectation this time around, since Pakistan has presented the international community with the dossier of the Indian state sponsorship of terrorism, especially in Pakistan, and Indian authorities would be under some sort of a pressure and they would take this offer by the US a little seriously and come to the negotiating table?
Well, frankly speaking, as for India is concerned, you have to show your teeth to the Indians, and due to our weak foreign policy during the Imran Khan's government, when they annexed Kashmir, and Imran Khan here made an announcement that if anybody move from this side of Pakistan, I will break their legs, and had this and that, threatened the people not to cross the line of control. That kind of weak statements encourages India. India is another kind of country, and we have to deal with India very firmly. They would not understand this language of sharafat or decency. With them you have to deal with like a perfect enemy, and unless they are sure that now you have become so aggressive and they are compelled to sit down to a dialogue, they will not.
Okay, Mr. Sherzai, your point is well taken. Unfortunately, we are short of time. Dr. Yamin, your quick take regarding this particular aspect.
Ditto sentiments. I don't think USA can do anything because India is not willing to talk, and you are again showing weakness. You have to be very strong economically, militarily. You should have good friends, and only then can you force India to come to the negotiation. Afghans will not talk to you. Indians will not. Nobody is going to talk to you unless you speak from this
position
of weakness.
Of strength. Dr. Tughral, Yamin, senior analyst, thank you very much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you very much
really
for
appreciate that. And Mr. Umer Khan Ali Sherzai, former ambassador, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
also
sir.
for being on Views on News. And that is it from today's Views on News. Until the next one, take good care of yourselves.